The vast and lonely steppe, the wind moves first. Before you open your eyes, before the pale light of dawn creeps beneath the felt walls of your ger, you feel it, a low whisper, pressing against the curved walls of your home, making the wooden frame creak softly like an old song. You lie still beneath layers of sheepskin and wool, your breath visible in the cold air, and for a moment you simply listen. Outside, the steppe is waking. Somewhere beyond the walls, a horse stamps and snorts. A dog barks once, then falls silent. The world is vast and quiet, and you are a small thing within it. This is the Mongolian steppe in the 12th century. Imagine it now. An ocean of grass stretching in every direction, so wide and so endless that the horizon seems to curve like the edge of a bowl. There are no cities here, no stone walls or towering temples, only the sky, enormous and pale blue, and the earth beneath it, rolling gently like the back of a sleeping animal. In spring, the grass is green and soft, dotted with tiny wildflowers that bloom for just a few weeks before the sun bakes them golden. In winter, the land turns white and silent, and the wind carries snow that stings your face like tiny needles. This is a place of extremes, of beauty that takes your breath away, and hardship that can take your life. You are a child of this land. Your family belongs to one of the many nomadic tribes that wander the steppe, following the seasons and the grass, moving your herds of horses, sheep, goats, and cattle from pasture to pasture. Your home is a ger, what some call a yurt, a round tent made of wooden lattice and thick felt, designed to be taken apart and carried on the backs of oxen when it is time to move. Inside, it is warm and dark, smelling of smoke and milk and the animal fat that burns in the small lamp by your mother's bed. Everything you own fits inside this circle. Everything you need, you carry with you. Life on the steppe is governed by rhythms older than memory. You rise with the sun and sleep when it sets. Your days are filled with work, the kind of work that children have done here for countless generations. You help tend the animals, guiding the sheep to water, watching for wolves that prowl the edges of the herd. You learn to ride almost before you can walk, your small body balanced on the back of a horse, your fingers gripping the coarse mane. Horses are everything here. They are transportation and wealth, companions and symbols of status. A family without horses is a family without hope. Your mother teaches you the skills you will need to survive. How to milk the mares and ferment the milk into arog, the slightly sour drink that sustains your people through the long winters. How to cure hides and stitch felt. How to cook meat over a fire of dried dung when there is no wood to burn. Your father and older brothers teach you to shoot a bow from horseback, to read the land and the sky, to know when a storm is coming by the way the birds fly. Knowledge here is practical and precious. It is passed down through words and watching, through doing and failing and trying again. But life is not only work. In the evenings, when the animals are settled and the fire burns low, your family gathers inside the ger and someone tells a story. Perhaps it is your grandmother, her voice soft and cracked with age, speaking of ancestors who rode these same plains 100 years ago. Perhaps it is a visiting traveler, a trader, or a shaman who brings news from distant tribes and tales of spirits that live in the mountains and rivers. You listen with wide eyes, the firelight flickering on the felt walls, and the stories weave themselves into your dreams. Yet beneath the beauty and the rhythm there is danger. The steppe is not a peaceful place. The tribes that wander this land are many, and they do not always live in harmony. There are raids and feuds, old grudges that stretch back generations. A strong tribe might attack a weaker one, stealing horses and cattle, taking women and children as captives. Alliances shift like the wind. A family that is your friend this season might be your enemy the next. Trust is precious and fragile, given only to bloodkin and sworn brothers, and even then it can be broken. You learn early that the world is uncertain. You hear the adults speak in low voices about troubles on the horizon, about rival clans moving closer, about a harsh winter that killed too many animals last year. You see the worry in your mother's eyes when your father rides out to meet with other men, and you feel the tension in the camp when strangers approach. Safety is never guaranteed. It must be earned and defended, day after day, season after season. This is the way of the steppe. This is the only way you know. And yet there is something in this life that calls to the soul. The freedom of the open land, the bond between a rider and a horse, the sense that you are part of something ancient and enduring. When you stand on a hill and look out at the endless grass, when you feel the wind on your face and hear the distant thunder of hooves, there is a wildness in your heart that answers, "This is your home." Harsh and beautiful, dangerous and free. You would not trade it for the soft beds and stone walls of the settled people to the south. You are a child of the steppe, and the steppe is in your blood. Now imagine that somewhere on this vast plain, in a camp much like yours, a boy is about to be born. His mother is the wife of a minor chieftain, a man of some standing but not great power. The year is around 1162, though no one here counts time the way the scribes and scholars do in distant lands. They count by seasons and by events, by the year of the great snow, or the summer when the river flooded. This is the year when a woman labors in a felt tent while the wind howls outside. And when her cries finally cease, a baby's wail rises to take their place. They will call him Temujin. It is a name taken from a captured enemy, a Tatar warrior, his father defeated in battle not long before. It is a strong name, a warrior's name, and perhaps his father hopes it will bring the boy strength and fortune. But no one gathered in that small, smoke-filled ger can know what this child will become. No one can see the future unfolding, the decades of struggle and triumph, the empires that will rise and fall, the millions of lives that will be changed forever. For now, he is just a baby, red-faced and crying, held in his mother's tired arms. For now, he is just another child of the steppe, born into a world of grass and wind and endless sky. Close your eyes and let yourself drift into that world. Feel the cold air and the warmth of the fire. Hear the wind pressing against the walls of the gore, steady and eternal. Somewhere out there, beneath the same stars that shine tonight, a story is beginning. A story of survival and loss, of ambition and loyalty, of one small life that will grow to reshape the world. But that is still to come. For now, there is only the steppe, vast and lonely and beautiful, waiting in the darkness for the dawn. Let your breath slow. Let your body sink into stillness. The story will continue, gently and slowly, carrying you deeper into history and closer to sleep. There is no hurry here. The steppe has all the time in the world, and so do you. A boy called Temujin, world you are born into, does not promise kindness. It does not promise safety or comfort or love. It offers only the endless grass, the wide sky, and whatever strength you can find within yourself. This is the world that greets the boy called Temujin, and from his very first breath, it begins to teach him lessons that will shape everything he becomes. Imagine you are this child, born into a family of modest standing on the vast Mongolian steppe. Your father, Yasuge, is a chieftain of the Borjigin clan, a man respected among his people, but far from the most powerful leader on the plains. He has enemies, as all men here do, and alliances that shift with the seasons. Your mother, Ellen, is a strong woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She was not born into your father's clan. She was captured from another tribe when she was young, and married to Yasuge by the customs of the steppe. This is not unusual. This is simply how life works in this hard and unforgiving land. You are born clutching a blood clot in your tiny fist. The elders see this and murmur among themselves. It is an omen, they say, a sign that this child is destined for something. Whether that something is greatness or bloodshed, no one can say. Perhaps it is both. On the steppe, the two often walk hand in hand. Your earliest years pass in the rhythms of nomadic life. You learn to walk on uneven ground, to ride before you can run, to endure cold and hunger without complaint. You have brothers and half-brothers, a small tribe of children who play and fight and learn together. There is laughter in your childhood, moments of warmth and joy, but there is also an edge of uncertainty that never quite fades. You sense it in the way the adults fall silent when certain names are spoken. You see it in your father's eyes when he scans the horizon, watching for riders who might be friends or foes. When you are perhaps 8 or 9 years old, your father decides it is time to find you a bride. This is not strange. Marriages on the steppe are arranged early, binding families together in alliances that can mean the difference between survival and destruction. Yasuge takes you on a journey across the grasslands, visiting clans and seeking a suitable match. Eventually, you come to the camp of the Anjarat tribe, and there you meet a girl named Bert. She is bright-eyed and curious, a little older than you, and something in her gaze makes you feel seen in a way you have not felt before. Your father negotiates with her family, and a betrothal is agreed. You will stay with her clan for a time, as is the custom, to grow familiar with your future wife and her people. But fate is cruel, and the steppe does not allow for gentle plans. On his journey home, your father stops to share a meal with a group of Tatars, an enemy tribe with whom your people have long been at war. Perhaps he does not recognize them. Perhaps he believes the sacred laws of hospitality will protect him. But the Tatars know who he is, and they remember the warriors he has killed, the raids he has led against their camps. They poison his food. By the time Yasuge reaches home, he is dying. Word is sent to bring you back. You ride as fast as you can, but the steppe is vast, and time is not on your side. When you arrive, your father is gone. The man who was your protector, your provider, the center of your small world, has been taken from you. You are a child, standing in a felt tent that suddenly feels cold and empty. and you do not yet understand how much everything is about to change. What happens next is a wound that will never fully heal. The clan that followed your father looks at your family and sees only burden. Your mother is a widow with young children. You are a boy, too small to lead, too weak to fight. The elders gather and make their decision. They will not stay. They will not share their food and their protection with a family that cannot contribute. One by one, the families pack their gears and drive their herds away, leaving your mother and her children alone on the empty steppe. Try to imagine this. You are 9 years old, perhaps 10. Yesterday, you were the son of a chieftain, surrounded by relatives and retainers, secure in your place within the tribe. Today, you are nothing. Your clan has abandoned you. Your father is dead. The vast grassland that once felt like home now feels like a prison, endless and indifferent. There is no one to protect you, no one to feed you. Only your mother, fierce and desperate, and your siblings, frightened and confused, huddled together against the wind. The years that follow are the hardest of your life. Your family survives on the margins, eating roots and berries, fishing in rivers, hunting small game. You learn what true hunger feels like, the gnawing emptiness that makes it hard to think, hard to move, hard to hope. You learn what it means to be despised, to be seen as less than nothing by the tribes that pass you by. You are a ghost on the steppe, a forgotten child of a dead chieftain, and no one expects you to survive. But you do survive. Something inside you refuses to break. Perhaps it is stubbornness. Perhaps it is rage. Perhaps it is simply the will to live that burns in every creature, the instinct that drives a wounded animal to keep crawling toward water. Your mother teaches you to endure, to find food where there seems to be none, to keep moving when your legs want to collapse. She is the rock upon which your family clings, and you watch her with a mixture of awe and sorrow, knowing that her strength is the only thing standing between you and death. There are moments of darkness, even within this darkness. When you are a young teenager, you kill one of your half-brothers in a dispute over food. The details are murky, lost to history, but the fact remains. You take a life, and it is the life of someone who shared your mother's tent. This is not something you are proud of. It is a stain that will follow you always, a reminder of how desperate those years were, how thin the line between survival and savagery. Your mother is furious, heartbroken. She speaks harsh words that cut deeper than any blade, but she does not abandon you. She cannot. You are all she has left, and slowly, painfully, things begin to change. You grow taller, stronger. The hunger and hardship have forged you into something hard and lean, a young man with watchful eyes and quick hands. You begin to gather others around you, boys and young men who are also outcasts, also survivors. You offer them loyalty, and they offer it in return. This is the first seed of what will one day become an empire, though you do not know it yet. For now, it is just a small band of brothers, sleeping under the stars, dreaming of a future that seems impossibly far away. You think often of Bert, the girl you left behind. You wonder if she remembers you, if she still waits. The betrothal was never completed, and her family would be within their rights to marry her to someone else. But something in your heart holds on to her, a thread of hope in a life that has offered so little. One day, you promise yourself. One day, you will return for her. One day, you will be strong enough to protect the people you love. That day is still far off, but it is coming. The boy called Temujin, the forgotten son, the starving outcast, is growing into something new. And the steppe, vast and patient, watches and waits. If you are still awake, let yourself settle deeper into this story. Let the hardship and the hope wash over you like the wind over the grass. There is more to tell, more to discover. But for now, rest in the knowledge that even the darkest beginnings can lead to unimaginable ends. Survival and brotherhood. There is a kind of bond that forms only in hardship. When you have starved beside someone, when you have shivered through the same frozen nights and watched the same enemies circle your camp, you know them in a way that comfort can never teach. This is the bond that shapes the young man to move, and it is a bond that will define his understanding of loyalty, betrayal, and power for the rest of his life. Imagine you are still this young outcast, growing stronger with each passing season, but still far from safe. The steppe is full of dangers, and you have learned to see them everywhere. Rival tribes who would kill you for the few horses you have managed to gather. Wild animals that prowl the edges of your camp at night. The cold itself, which can take a life as easily as any blade. You sleep lightly, one hand always near your bow, and you trust almost no one. But there are exceptions. There is your mother, of course, whose fierce love has carried your family through the worst years. There are your brothers, bound to you by blood and shared suffering. And there is one other, a boy you met in childhood, whose friendship will shape the course of your life in ways you cannot yet imagine. His name is Jamuka, and he is the closest thing you have to a brother who is not your kin. You and Jamuka first swore the oath of Anda, blood brothers, when you were young. It is a sacred bond, on the steppe deeper even than family in some ways. You exchanged gifts, spoke the ancient words, and mingled your blood in a ritual that tied your fates together. In those early years, the friendship was pure and uncomplicated. You hunted together, rode together, shared your food and your dreams. Jamuka was clever and charismatic, a natural leader who drew others to him. You admired him. You loved him. He was the brother you chose. And that choice felt like the most important thing in the world. But even the strongest bonds can be tested. As you both grow older, as you both begin to gather followers and build your own small powers on the steppe, something shifts between you. It is subtle at first, a flicker of competition where there was once only camaraderie. Jamuka is ambitious, and so are you. The steppe is not big enough for two rising stars, and somewhere deep down, you both know it. The friendship remains, but it is shadowed now, complicated by unspoken questions. Who will lead? Who will follow? What happens when two brothers want the same thing? There is another bond forming in these years, one that is quieter, but no less powerful. You have not forgotten Bert, the girl you were betrothed to as a child. When you are old enough, when you have gathered enough strength to make the journey, you return to her clan and claim her as your wife. She comes with you willingly, this young woman with steady eyes and a calm spirit. She sees something in you, perhaps the same thing you see in yourself. When you dare to hope, potential, purpose, a future worth building, your marriage too. Bert is one of the true anchors of your life. She is not simply a wife in the way that the settled peoples might understand. She is a partner, an advisor, a source of strength when your own falters. She bears your children and manages your household, but she also speaks her mind, offers counsel, and stands beside you in ways that matter far beyond the domestic. In a world where women are often traded like horses, where their voices are seldom heard in the councils of men, Bert carves out a space of influence through sheer force of will and wisdom. You learn to listen to her. You learn to trust her judgment. And that trust is repaid 1,000 times over. But even this happiness is not safe from the cruelty of the steppe. Not long after your marriage, disaster strikes. A rival tribe, the Merkits, attacks your camp in a raid. They are seeking revenge for an old grievance, a wound inflicted by your father's generation that has never healed. In the chaos of the attack, you manage to escape, but Bert is taken. She is carried away into captivity, and you are left standing in the ruins of your camp, helpless and enraged. This is one of the defining moments of your young life. You could accept the loss, as so many on the steppe have done before. You could swallow your grief and move on, find another wife, try to forget. But something in you refuses. Bert is yours, and you will not abandon her. You swear to bring her back, no matter the cost. To do this, you need allies. You cannot fight the Merkits alone. And so you turn to the bonds you have built, the relationships forged in hardship and sealed with oaths. You call upon Jamuka, your blood brother, and he answers. You seek the support of Togrul, a powerful Khan who was once a friend of your father's. He too agrees to help. Together, you assemble a force large enough to challenge the Merkits, and you ride out to war. The campaign is brutal and swift. The Merkits are caught off guard by the strength of your alliance, and their camp is overwhelmed. You fight with a fury born of desperation, cutting through anyone who stands between you and Bert. When you finally find her, when you see her face again after months of separation, the relief is almost more than you can bear. She is alive. She is safe. She is coming home, but the rescue is not without complication. Bert returns to you pregnant, and the child she carries may or may not be yours. The timing is uncertain, and there will always be whispers about the boy who is born. The firstborn son named Joki. You choose to claim him, to raise him as your own, and you never speak publicly of any doubt. But the question lingers, a shadow over your family that will cause pain and conflict in the years to come. This is another lesson the steppe teaches you. Even victories are complicated. Even joy is laced with sorrow. In the aftermath of the Merkat campaign, your alliance with Jamuka deep. For a time, you and your blood brother ride together, your followers mingled, your camps side by side. It feels like the old days, the pure friendship of your youth restored. But the tension is still there, growing beneath the surface. Your followers begin to see you as equals, and then as rivals. Some prefer your leadership to Jamuka's. Some whisper that you are the one destined for greatness, not him. The break, when it comes, is painful. You and Jamuka part ways, not in open conflict, but in a slow drifting apart that feels almost worse. The bond of Onda is not formally broken, but it is strained beyond repair. You will meet again on the battlefield, enemies now instead of brothers. You will fight against each other for dominance of the steppe and the war will be long and bitter. In the end, only one of you will survive, but that is still to come. For now, in these early years of struggle and survival, you are learning what loyalty truly means. It is not a word or a ritual. It is action. It is showing up when you are needed, fighting for the people who matter, keeping your promises even when it costs you everything. You are learning that trust is the most valuable currency on the steppe, more precious than horses or gold. And you are learning that betrayal, when it comes, cuts deeper than any wound. These lessons will shape the leader you become. When you rise to power, you will reward loyalty with a ferocity that matches your punishment of betrayal. You will build an empire not on bloodlines, but on bonds, promoting men who prove themselves faithful regardless of their birth. The boy who was abandoned by his clan will create a new kind of clan, one based on choice and merit rather than accident of birth. And at the heart of it all will be the memory of these hard years, the friendships that saved you, and the ones that broke your heart. Let yourself rest in this part of the story. Feel the weight of these bonds, the warmth and the sorrow of them. The young man Temujin is still far from the conqueror he will become, but the foundation is being laid, stone by stone, choice by choice, and the steppe watches, patient and eternal, as the future takes shape. The unification of the tribes, the steppe, has always been divided. For as long as anyone can remember, the tribes have wandered separately, each following its own herds, its own leaders, its own ancient grudges. The Mongols, the Tatars, the Merkits, the Naimans, the Carrots, and dozens of smaller clans, all moving across the same vast grassland, all competing for the same pastures and water sources. War is constant. Alliances form and shatter like ice in spring. No one has ever united this fractured world. No one has even tried, not truly, but that is about to change. Imagine you are an ordinary herder in this time of transformation. Your family has followed the same routes for generations, moving with the seasons, avoiding trouble when you can, enduring it when you cannot. You have lost relatives to raids, seen your herds stolen, watched your children grow up with fear as a constant companion. This is simply life. This is all you have ever known. But lately, there are rumors on the wind. A young leader is rising among the Mongol clans. His name is Temujin, and they say he is different. They say he is gathering followers from every tribe, building something new. At first, you are skeptical. You have heard such rumors before. Ambitious men rise on the steppe all the time, and they fall just as quickly. What makes this one different? But as the seasons pass, the rumors grow louder and more insistent. Temujin's army is winning battles. His followers are multiplying. Clans that once opposed him are bending the knee, joining his confederation. Even powerful khans are seeking alliance with him or fleeing before his advance. Something is happening out there on the grassland, something that has never happened before. The process of unification is long and bloody. It spans more than 2 decades, from the late 12th century into the early 13th. Temujin fights war after war, sometimes against strangers, sometimes against former friends. His blood brother Jamuka becomes his greatest rival, and their armies clash again and again. Old enemies like the Tatars, the tribe that poisoned his father, are hunted down and destroyed. The Merkits who kidnapped Bert are scattered to the winds. One by one, the tribes of the steppe are brought under a single banner. whether by conquest or by choice. But here is what makes Temujin different from the warlords who came before. He does not simply defeat his enemies. He absorbs them. When a tribe submits, its people are not slaughtered or enslaved. They are welcomed into the growing confederation, given a place in the new order. Warriors who fought bravely against Temujin are often promoted and honored. Their loyalty to their former leaders seen as a virtue rather than a crime. What matters is not where you came from, but whether you can be trusted now. This is revolutionary. This is something the steppe has never seen. Imagine what this means for someone like you, an ordinary herder caught in the tide of history. For your entire life, your identity has been tied to your tribe. You are a Tatar, or a Merkit, or a Naaman, and that identity determines everything. Who you can marry, who you must fight, where you can safely graze your animals. But now, suddenly, those old divisions are being erased. Temujin does not care what tribe you were born into. He cares only whether you will follow his laws, serve in his army, contribute to his vision. You are being asked to become something new, a Mongol, part of a nation that did not exist a generation ago. This is frightening. Change always is. You have heard stories of what happens to those who resist, the massacres, the examples made of rebellious leaders. Temujin can be merciful, but he can also be utterly ruthless. Betrayal is punished with death, not just for the traitor, but often for their entire family. The message is clear. Loyalty is everything. Once you give your word, you must keep it, or face consequences beyond imagination. This is the price of the new order. This is the bargain. Submit, and you will be protected. Rebel, and you will be destroyed. And yet, for all its harshness, there is something appealing about what is being built. The constant raids are stopping. The endless cycle of tribal warfare is grinding to a halt. For the first time in living memory, you can move your herds across the steppe without fearing an attack from your neighbors. There are new laws, the beginnings of what will be called the yasa, a code that applies to everyone equally, from the highest noble to the lowest slave. Murder is punished. Theft is punished. Women and children taken in raids must be returned. There is order emerging from chaos, and even though it has been imposed by force, you cannot deny that life is becoming easier. The new society, Temujin, is building breaks with tradition in ways that shock the old aristocracy. Bloodlines no longer guarantee power. A man born into a noble family can be passed over for a commoner who has proven himself in battle or in service. Temujin promotes his companions, the men who stood by him in the hard years, regardless of their origins. A slave who shows courage can rise to command armies. A prince who shows cowardice can be stripped of everything. This meritocracy is deeply threatening to those who benefited from the old ways. But it is intoxicating to those who never had a chance before. You watch these changes unfold with a mixture of hope and unease. Your sons are called to serve in the new army, organized not by tribe, but by units of 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. They train alongside boys from clans that were enemies a few years ago. They learn to fight as a single force, disciplined and coordinated, loyal not to a tribe but to the Khan. When they come home on leave, they speak of things you do not fully understand, tactics and signals, a new way of war that seems unstoppable. They are proud, these young men. They believe they are part of something greater than themselves. As for Temujin, he is no longer just a warlord or a chieftain. He is becoming something more, a symbol, a unifying figure around whom an entire people can gather. The shamans speak of him with reverence, saying that the eternal blue sky has chosen him to rule. The elders, even those who once opposed him, begin to acknowledge that the steppe has never seen his like. He is not just conquering, he is creating a nation, an identity, a future, and you, the ordinary herder, find yourself swept up in it all. Your grandparents would not recognize the world you live in now. The old certainties are gone, the tribal boundaries, the familiar patterns of raid and revenge. In their place is something vast and uncertain, terrifying and thrilling. You do not know where it will lead. You do not know if this new nation will last a generation or 1,000 years, but you know that nothing will ever be the same. Take a breath and let this settle over you. The steppe is changing, transforming before your eyes. The boy who was once abandoned, the outcast who starved on the margins, is remaking the world. And you are part of it, a single thread in a tapestry so large you cannot see its edges. Rest now and let the story carry you forward. The unification is almost complete, and what comes next will shake the earth. The Khan rises. The year is 1206. The place is the source of the Anon River, a sacred site on the Mongolian steppe where the water runs clear and cold from the mountains. The tribes have gathered, thousands upon thousands of people, more than have ever assembled in one place in living memory. Warriors and herders, women and children, shamans and nobles, all come to witness something that has never happened before. The unification is complete. The man who made it possible is about to receive a new name, a new title, a new destiny. Imagine you are there, standing at the edge of this vast assembly. The air is crisp and smells of grass and horses. Banners flutter in the wind, marking the positions of the great commanders and their armies. A white felt carpet has been laid before a raised platform, and upon it sits the man you have heard so much about. He is perhaps 44 years old, his face weathered by decades of sun and wind, his eyes sharp and watchful. He wears no crown, no elaborate robes. His power needs no ornament. Everyone here knows what he has done. Everyone here knows what he is. The shamans perform their rituals, calling upon the eternal blue sky and the spirits of the ancestors. Prayers are offered, sacrifices made. The ceremony is ancient in its forms, but unprecedented in its meaning. When it is done, the assembled leaders kneel before the man on the platform and proclaim him Genghis Khan. The title is new, coined for this moment. It means something like universal ruler or oceanic king, a name that suggests dominion without limit, power that stretches to the edges of the world. What does it feel like to witness this? You are a common person, a herder, or a soldier's wife, someone who has never spoken to the great Khan and never will, but you feel the weight of the moment nonetheless. The steppe has always been fragmented, chaotic, a place where strength was measured by how many enemies you could fight off. Now there is one ruler, one law, one nation. The old tribal names have not been erased, but they mean something different now. You are still who you were, but you are also something more. You are a Mongol, a subject of the Khan, part of an empire that is just beginning to understand its own power. Genghis Khan rises and speaks to the assembly. His voice is not loud, but it carries. He thanks his loyal followers, the men who stood by him in the hard years, who believed in him when belief seemed foolish. He promises rewards for the faithful and warns of punishment for traitors. He speaks of the laws he will impose, the yasa, the great code that will govern every aspect of life in his realm. There will be order, there will be justice, there will be peace, at least among those who submit. For those who resist, there will be war without mercy. The yasa is something remarkable. It is not written down, at least not yet, but it is memorized and enforced by the khans, judges, and administrators. It covers everything from the conduct of war to the treatment of ambassadors, from the punishment of crimes to the regulation of trade. Some of its provisions seem harsh by any standard. A soldier who retreats without orders is executed. A man who urinates in running water is put to death. But other provisions are surprisingly enlightened. Religious freedom is guaranteed. Scholars and priests of any faith are exempt from taxation. Women have certain rights to property and divorce that would be unthinkable in many settled civilizations. The army that Genghis Khan has built is the instrument of his power, and it is organized with a precision that the world has never seen. Every adult male is a soldier, trained from childhood in riding and archery. The army is divided into units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000, each with its own commander, each bound by oaths of absolute loyalty. Men from different tribes serve together, their old identities subsumed into the new structure. Discipline is ferocious. Coordination is seamless. When this army moves, it moves as a single organism, faster and more flexible than any force the settled kingdoms can muster. You watch the army drill and maneuver, and even though you are not a warrior yourself, you feel a swell of pride. These are your sons, your brothers, your neighbors. They are not just raiders anymore. They are soldiers of an empire, and they believe they are destined to conquer the world. The Khan has told them that the eternal blue sky has decreed their victory. He has told them that all the lands beneath the sun are theirs by divine right. And looking at them now, disciplined and deadly, you almost believe it. But what of the Khan himself? What is he like, this man who has risen from nothing to rule an empire? Those who meet him speak of a presence that is hard to describe. He is not physically imposing, not a giant or a beauty, but there is something in his gaze, a quality of absolute certainty that makes others feel small. He listens more than he speaks. He remembers everything. He rewards loyalty with a generosity that inspires devotion, and he punishes betrayal with a cruelty that inspires terror. He is not loved, exactly, not in the warm way you might love a friend or a father, but he is followed. He is obeyed. He is believed. In Genghis Khan has never learned to read or write. The Mongols have no written language of their own, and he was raised in a world where such skills were unnecessary. But he understands the power of writing, the way it can preserve laws and records, the way it can project authority across vast distances. He orders the creation of a Mongol script, adapted from the writing system of a conquered people. He appoints scribes and administrators, many of them foreigners, to manage the growing complexity of his realm. The empire is becoming something more than a horde. It is becoming a state as you stand in the crowd. Watching the ceremonies conclude, you feel the world shifting beneath your feet. The old ways are not gone, not entirely. You still live in a gur, still follow the herds, still measure wealth in horses and children. But everything has changed. You are part of something larger now, something that has ambitions beyond the steppe. The Khan's eyes are turning outward, toward the wealthy kingdoms of China and Persia, toward the cities of silk and gold that lie beyond the horizon. The conquests are coming. The world is about to learn the name of the Mongols. Let this moment settle into you like the last light of evening settling into the grass. The Khan has risen. The empire is born. And the story is only beginning. Rest now and let the tale carry you gently forward. Through the years of conquest and creation, toward a legacy that echoes still. The world expands conquest and connection. The Mongol riders appear on the horizon like a storm. One moment the land is quiet, the fields and villages going about their ordinary business. The next, there is a distant thunder, a cloud of dust, and then they are there. Thousands of horsemen, moving faster than any army the world has seen, their bows singing death across impossible distances. This is what conquest looks like in the early 13th century. This is how the world changes. Imagine you are not a Mongol now, but someone on the other side. A farmer in the Khwarezmian Empire, perhaps, tending your crops in what is now Uzbekistan or Iran. Or a merchant in a Chinese city, going about your trade behind walls that have stood for centuries. Or a scholar in Baghdad, surrounded by books and learning, confident in the power and civilization of the Islamic world. You have heard rumors of the horse people from the north, but they seem distant, almost mythical. Surely they are no match for the great kingdoms of the earth. Surely they will break against the walls of real cities, the armies of real empires. You are wrong. The Mongol conquests of the early 13th century are among the most devastating in human history. Genghis Khan and his generals sweep across Asia with a speed and ferocity that defies comprehension. The Khwarezmian Empire, once a great power stretching from the Caspian Sea to the borders of India, is annihilated in just 2 years. Cities that have stood for centuries are reduced to rubble. Populations that numbered in the hundreds of thousands are slaughtered or scattered. The scale of destruction is almost impossible to grasp, and yet, even as we acknowledge this horror, we must try to understand it. The Mongols are not simply bloodthirsty savages, whatever their enemies might say. They are pragmatic, disciplined, and in their own way, rational. Genghis Khan prefers submission to slaughter. Cities that surrender without resistance are often spared. Their people are absorbed into the empire, their skills put to use, their leaders given a place in the new order. It is only those who resist, who kill Mongol envoys, or defy Mongol demands, who face the full fury of the horde. The massacres are not random. They are calculated terror, designed to break the will of future enemies before a single arrow is fired. This is cold comfort if you are the one facing the Mongol army. The fear is real and overwhelming. You hear stories of entire cities put to the sword, of pyramids of skulls left as warnings, of refugees fleeing west with nothing but the clothes on their backs. The world you knew is ending. The certainties that shaped your life, the borders and kingdoms and powers, are dissolving like morning mist. And in their place comes something new, something vast and terrifying, an empire that stretches from the Pacific Ocean to the gates of Europe. But here is what the chronicles of destruction often miss. Even as the Mongols tear down the old world, they are building something new. The empire that emerges from the conquests is not simply a wasteland ruled by warlords. It is a network, a system, a vast web of connections that links east and west in ways that have never existed before. The Mongols call it the Yam, a system of relay stations and messengers that allows information to travel across thousands of miles in a matter of weeks. Merchants follow in the wake of the armies, trading goods along routes that are safer now than they have been in centuries. Ideas flow alongside silk and spices, technologies and religions and ways of seeing the world. Imagine the Silk Road in this era. You are a trader, let us say, from Venice or Persia or China. Before the Mongols, your journey would have been a nightmare of petty kingdoms, each with its own tariffs and dangers, its own bandits and corrupt officials. Now, with the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peace, you can travel from one end of the continent to the other under the protection of a single authority. You carry a tablet of safe passage issued by the Khan, and it is honored everywhere. You meet other travelers along the way, people from lands you have never heard of, speaking languages you do not understand, carrying goods and stories that expand your sense of what is possible. This is the paradox of the Mongol Empire. It is built on blood, on a scale of violence that is almost unimaginable, and yet it also opens the world in ways that will shape history for centuries to come. Paper, money and gunpowder, printing and the compass, ideas about astronomy and medicine and governance, all of these flow along the Mongol trade routes, seeding developments that will eventually transform Europe and set the stage for the modern world. The plague travels these routes to the Black Death that will kill a third of Europe's population in the 14th century. Connection brings gifts and curses alike. The Mongols do not discriminate. Genghis Khan himself does not live to see the full extent of what he has created. He dies in 1227 during a campaign against the Tangut Kingdom in what is now northwestern China. The exact cause of his death is uncertain. Some say he fell from his horse. Some say he was wounded in battle. Some say he simply grew old, his body finally surrendering to decades of war and hardship. He is buried in secret in an unmarked grave somewhere on the Mongolian steppe, and the location is lost to history. Even in death, he remains elusive, a mystery wrapped in legend. But his empire lives on. His sons and grandsons continue the conquests, pushing into Russia and Eastern Europe, into the Middle East and China. The Mongol realm eventually fragments into separate khanates, each ruled by a branch of the family, but the legacy endures. For a century and more, the descendants of Genghis Khan are the most powerful people on earth. Their courts are centers of culture and learning, drawing scholars and artists from across the known world. Their laws and institutions shape the development of nations that still exist today, and through it all, the connections remain. The world that Genghis Khan opened never fully closes again. The knowledge and technologies that flow along the Mongol routes become the foundation of new discoveries, new empires, new ways of being human. The violence fades into history, but the connections endure. This is the complicated legacy of the Mongol conquests. Destruction and creation, horror and wonder, bound together in ways that cannot be easily separated. Rest now, and let this complexity settle over you. History is rarely simple. The people who lived through these times knew both terror and hope, loss and possibility. You do not have to resolve the contradictions. You only have to witness them, to hold them gently in your mind as you drift toward sleep. The story continues. The world continues. And somewhere out there, on the endless steppe, the wind still blows. Life under the Mongol peace, the caravans move slowly across the land, laden with goods from the edges of the world. Silk from China, spices from India, furs from the northern forests, gold and silver and precious stones from mines you have never heard of. The camels sway beneath their burdens, and the merchants walk beside them, speaking a dozen languages, praying to a dozen gods. This is the Silk Road in the age of the Mongol peace, and you are part of it. A small figure in a vast tapestry of commerce and connection. Imagine you are a merchant in this era, traveling the routes that link east and west. Perhaps you began your journey in the markets of Samarkand, or the ports of the Persian Gulf. Perhaps you are heading toward the fabled cities of China, where the wealth of the Song dynasty awaits those brave enough to make the journey. The road is long and difficult, crossing deserts and mountains, but it is safer now than it has been in living memory. The Mongol Khans have imposed order on the chaos. Bandits are hunted down. Caravanserais, the inns that shelter travelers, are maintained and protected. You carry a tablet of passage stamped with the Khan seal, and it opens doors that would otherwise be barred. The Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peace, is one of the great paradoxes of history. It is built on conquest, on the bones of millions who died in the wars of expansion. And yet, once the conquests are complete, a kind of stability settles over the vast Mongol realm. For perhaps a century, from the mid-13th to the mid-14th century, the routes between Europe and Asia are more open than they have ever been. People, goods, and ideas flow across continents with a freedom that will not be seen again until the modern age. You meet all kinds of people on the road. There are other merchants, of course, traders in silk and spices, in horses and slaves, in anything that can be bought and sold. But there are also diplomats, envoys from distant kingdoms, seeking alliance or trade agreements with the Mongol Khans. There are missionaries, Christian and Muslim and Buddhist, traveling to spread their faiths or to convert the conquerors themselves. There are scholars and scientists, drawn by the Mongol courts that welcome expertise from anywhere in the world. The empire is a meeting place, a crossroads of civilizations. The cities you pass through bear the marks of this mingling. In the great trading centers, in Karakoram and Tabriz and Khanbalik, you find mosques beside churches, beside Buddhist temples. You hear prayers in Arabic and Latin and Chinese, sometimes within earshot of one another. The Mongol rulers are pragmatic about religion. They do not care which god you worship, only that you pay your taxes and obey the Khan's laws. This tolerance is remarkable for its time. It allows a flourishing of ideas that might otherwise have been suppressed. But life under Mongol rule is not without its hardships. The empire is vast, and its demands are heavy. You pay taxes to the Khan's officials, and if you cannot pay, there are consequences. The army must be fed and supplied, and the burden falls on those who work the land and the roads. You see the soldiers everywhere, Mongol warriors in their distinctive armor, watching, enforcing, reminding you that peace is maintained by force. You are free within limits. You are safe as long as you obey. The laws of the Yasa govern every aspect of life. Some of them seem strange to you, even arbitrary. The Mongols have taboos about water and fire, about certain ways of slaughtering animals, about behaviors that your own culture sees nothing wrong with. But you learn to follow these rules, because the punishment for breaking them is severe. The Mongol justice is swift and often brutal. There are no prisons, no long trials. A crime is committed, a judgment is rendered, and the sentence is carried out. Theft, murder, treason, all are punished with death. The message is clear. Order will be maintained at any cost. And yet, within this framework, there is room for prosperity. If you are clever and hardworking, if you navigate the system well, you can build a fortune that would have been impossible a generation ago. The markets are vast, the opportunities endless. You see merchants who started with nothing and now live like princes, their warehouses full of goods, their caravans stretching for miles. The Mongol Empire is not kind, but it is efficient. It rewards those who serve it well. The years pass, and you grow familiar with the rhythms of this world. You know which routes are safest, which officials can be bribed, which seasons are best for travel. You make friends among the other merchants, men and women from lands you once thought of as enemies. The old boundaries seem less important now. What matters is trade, is profit, is survival. You are part of something larger than yourself, a network of exchange that spans the known world. But even as you prosper, you sense that this peace is fragile. The Mongol Khans are mortal, and their succession is always uncertain. You hear rumors of conflicts within the royal family, of khanates drifting apart, of rebellions brewing in distant provinces. The empire that seemed eternal is beginning to show cracks. And somewhere out there, moving silently along the trade routes you travel, is something else. A sickness, a plague. It will take years to arrive, but when it does, it will change everything. For now, though, you do not think of such things. You think of the road ahead, the goods you carry, the profit you hope to make. The sun is setting over the steppe, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. The camels settle down for the night, and you make your camp beside a stream. Tomorrow, you will continue the journey. Tonight, you rest under the same stars that have watched over travelers for thousands of years. Let this peace settle into you. Let the rhythm of the caravans, the vastness of the trade routes, carry you toward sleep. The world is large and strange and full of wonders, and you are part of it for this brief moment. A traveler in the age of the Mongol peace, rest now. The journey continues tomorrow. The man behind the legend, who was he, really? Not the legend, not the conqueror, whose name became a synonym for devastation. The man, the person who lived and breathed and thought and felt, who loved some people and hated others, who made choices that shaped the world. Genghis Khan is one of history's most famous figures, but he is also one of its most mysterious. The sources that survive are fragmentary, contradictory, filtered through the agendas of those who wrote them. And yet, if we look carefully, we can glimpse something of the human being behind the myth. Imagine you are trying to understand this man, piecing together the fragments like a puzzle with missing pieces. You know the outlines of his life, the abandoned child who became a world conqueror. But what was he like to be around? What did he value? What did he fear? The answers are elusive, but not entirely beyond reach. Those who knew him speak of his presence. He was not tall, not physically imposing in the way you might expect of a great warrior, but there was something in his bearing, his gaze, that commanded attention. He listened more than he spoke, weighing every word, every piece of information, storing it away in a memory that seemed to forget nothing. When he did speak, it was with an economy and precision that could be unsettling. He wasted nothing, not words, not time, not lives. Everything had a purpose. He was loyal to those who were loyal to him, fiercely and absolutely. The men who stood by him in the hard years, who shared his hunger and his exile, were rewarded beyond measure. He raised them to positions of power, trusted them with armies and provinces, treated them as brothers. This loyalty was not sentimental. It was practical, strategic. Genghis Khan understood that an empire is built on trust, that a leader who abandons his followers will soon have none. But it was also genuine. He remembered every kindness, every service, and he repaid them. He was equally memorable in his hatred. Those who betrayed him, who broke their oaths or killed his envoys, faced a wrath that was terrible to behold. Entire cities were destroyed, entire peoples scattered, as punishment for defiance. He did not enjoy cruelty for its own sake, or at least, there is no evidence that he did. But he believed that terror was a tool, that one example of ruthlessness could prevent 1,000 future rebellions. The massacres were calculated, strategic, part of a logic that was utterly consistent, even as it was horrifying. And yet, there were other sides to him. He was curious about the world, eager to learn from those who knew things he did not. He surrounded himself with advisors from every culture, Chinese scholars and Persian administrators and Uyghur scribes. He asked questions constantly, probing for knowledge that might be useful. When he conquered new lands, he spared the craftsmen and the learned, incorporating them into his service. He could not read or write, but he valued those who could, understanding that literacy was a form of power. He thought about death. This may seem strange for a man who dealt death so freely, but the sources suggest that Genghis Khan was preoccupied with mortality. As he grew older, he summoned a Taoist monk named Qiu Chuji to his camp. Having heard that the sage possessed the secret of immortality, the monk traveled thousands of miles to meet him, and their conversations were recorded. Qiu Chuji told the Khan that there was no elixir of eternal life, only the cultivation of virtue and moderation. Genghis Khan was disappointed but not angry. He kept the monk as an honored guest and listened to his teachings. Perhaps, in some part of himself, he already knew the answer. His family was complicated, as families always are. He loved Bert, his first wife, with a constancy that outlasted decades, and dozens of other wives and concubines. She was his partner, his advisor, the mother of his legitimate heirs. But the shadow over Joki, the firstborn, whose paternity was uncertain, caused pain that never fully healed. The sons competed for favor, and the succession was always a source of tension. Genghis Khan tried to manage this, to balance the claims of his children and prepare for the future. But he could not control everything. Even the greatest conqueror cannot conquer his own family. What did he believe in? The eternal blue sky, the supreme deity of the Mongol tradition, was central to his worldview. He believed he had been chosen by heaven to unite the world under one rule. This was not megalomania, or not only megalomania. It was a genuine conviction, shared by many around him, that the cosmos had a plan and he was its instrument. This belief gave him confidence, purpose, a sense of mission that sustained him through decades of struggle. It also made compromise difficult. If heaven had chosen him, then those who opposed him were opposing the will of the universe itself. In the end, we cannot know him fully. The man is lost to us, obscured by time and legend, but we can glimpse him, fleetingly, in the decisions he made and the world he created. He was brilliant and brutal, curious and cruel, loyal and ruthless. He was human in all the contradictory complexity that implies. And perhaps that is the most important thing to remember. The figure who changed history forever was not a god or a demon. He was a person, born on a cold steppe, shaped by hunger and loss, rising to heights that no one could have imagined. His story is our story, the human story, in all its darkness and light. Let this understanding settle gently over you. You do not have to judge him. You do not have to decide if he was hero or villain. You only have to see him as clearly as the fragments allow. A man standing on the steppe, looking out at a world he would reshape. Rest now and let the complexity of human nature carry you toward sleep. The legacy that echoes still the grave is lost. Somewhere on the Mongolian steppe, beneath grass and sky, lies the body of the man who conquered half the world, but no one knows where. The soldiers who buried him killed everyone who saw the location, and then, some say, they too were killed. A river may have been diverted to flow over the site. A forest may have been planted to hide it. The secrecy was absolute, and it has held for 800 years. Genghis Khan, even in death, remains elusive. Imagine you are standing on the steppe today in the 21st century. The grass still waves in the wind. The sky is still vast and blue. Horses still graze on the hillsides, and somewhere a family is packing up their gear, preparing to move to new pastures. The rhythms of nomadic life continue, as they have for thousands of years. And yet, everything has changed. The empire is gone. The khanates have crumbled. The lands that Genghis Khan conquered are now divided among dozens of nations, each with its own language, its own government, its own relationship to the past. But the legacy remains. It is written in the DNA of millions of people across Asia and beyond. Genetic studies suggest that Genghis Khan and his male relatives have more descendants alive today than any other lineage in history. 1 in every 200 men on Earth may carry his Y chromosome. This is a strange kind of immortality, not the elixir the Khan once sought, but a biological persistence that outlasts all monuments. His blood flows in people who have never heard his name, who live lives utterly unlike his own, who are connected to him by nothing but the invisible threads of heredity. The legacy is written in borders and maps. The modern nations of Mongolia, China, Russia, Iran, and many others were shaped by the Mongol conquests. The boundaries that Genghis Khan drew, the populations he moved, the cities he destroyed and founded, all of these left marks that can still be traced. When you look at a map of Central Asia, you are looking at history that began on the steppe 8 centuries ago. The empire is gone, but its ghost lingers in every line. The legacy is written in culture and memory. In Mongolia, Genghis Khan is a hero, the father of the nation, the man who united the tribes and gave his people an identity that has endured through centuries of foreign domination. His face appears on currency and vodka bottles, on monuments and museums. Children learn his story in school, and his name is invoked with pride. But in other places, the memory is different. In Iran, in Iraq, in the lands where Mongol armies left pyramids of skulls, he is a figure of terror, a destroyer whose cruelty is not forgotten. History looks different depending on where you stand. The legacy is written in ideas and connections. The Mongol Empire was a bridge between worlds, a network that linked China to Europe, India to Russia, in ways that had never existed before. The technologies and ideas that flowed along that bridge, paper and printing, gunpowder and the compass, mathematics and medicine, seeded developments that would transform human civilization. The Renaissance, the age of exploration, the scientific revolution, all of these drew on knowledge that traveled the Mongol routes. The world we live in today, interconnected and interdependent, owes something to the openness that the Khans imposed, and the legacy is written in questions. How do we judge a man like Genghis Khan? He was responsible for the deaths of millions, a toll of suffering that is almost impossible to comprehend. And yet, he also built something, created connections, opened possibilities that would not have existed otherwise. Do the achievements balance the atrocities? Can they? There is no easy answer, and perhaps there should not be. History is not a ledger where we can add up good and evil and arrive at a final sum. It is a story, messy and complicated, full of people who were capable of both greatness and horror. Perhaps the most important lesson is simply this: one life can matter. One person, born into the most unpromising circumstances, can change the course of history. Genghis Khan began as an abandoned child, starving on the margins of a harsh land, with no power and no prospects. He ended as the ruler of the largest contiguous empire the world has ever seen. His choices, his will, his vision, these shaped the lives of millions across centuries. We do not have to admire him. We do not have to condemn him. But we can recognize the extraordinary weight of a single human life. The wind blows across the steppe as it has always blown. The grass bends and rises, bends and rises. Somewhere, out there, beneath the earth, the Khan sleeps his endless sleep. His secrets are safe. His story is told and retold, changing with each telling, alive in ways that the man himself could never have imagined. And you, listening to this story in the quiet of the night, are part of that chain of telling. The legacy passes through you gently as you drift toward sleep. Thank you for spending this time with history. Thank you for letting the story of Genghis Khan, in all its complexity, wash over you. If you enjoyed this journey, consider subscribing, leaving a comment, sharing with a friend who loves the past. And now, let go. Let the vastness of the steppe, the sweep of centuries, the mystery of one remarkable life, settle into your dreams. The world is old and full of stories, and you are part of them. Tonight and always, rest well. Sleep peacefully. The wind still blows, the grass still waves, and somewhere the horses are running.
And so we come to the end of tonight's story. Thank you truly for spending this time with me. If you enjoyed this journey through history, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Leave a like if this helped you relax, and share it with anyone who might need a peaceful night's rest. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What part of Genghis Khan's story stayed with you the most? What would you like to explore in future episodes? Your voice matters here. Now, let go of the day. Let go of everything that doesn't serve you in this moment. The step is quiet, the wind is soft, and sleep is waiting for you, gentle and warm. Good night, dear listener. Rest well, and I'll see you in the next story.